Hello, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson. How are you today? I am so glad you're dropping in and watching and driving by as I talk and show up on your monitors. So, okay, it'll be all right. Anyway, that was just my brother dropping in, letting me know he's going to be spraying off the outside of the house where we had put up the, uh, let me see, sawmill lumber yesterday. From our, we got he got the lumber from our cousin down on Brushy Creek here in Pike County, Kentucky, Kenneth Scaff, and got a little business going on there. He's had that been going on for a long time, a long time. I'm going to say probably more than 50 years, but been involved in sawmill stuff for that long. So, yeah. Welcome to the Tuesday program for Midday. As I said, this is Cassandra Williamson. I am coming to you from a holler in Eastern Kentucky, and it happens to be where we're just going to talk about thoughts that come from a holler, okay? All right. So if anybody wants to show up and listen, you're more than welcome to do so. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on, particularly in the news and stuff. And I mean, it's just, we've had a good weekend. We had a good weekend with Labor Day weekend. So 3 days, everyone enjoyed all of that, and we're glad to be back. I know I did some shows over the weekend and yesterday as well, and just having a little bit of fun with everything, carrying on. And for the last several episodes of this program, I've been doing the kind of like, let's go take a look at Twitter and see what's going on over on X.com, because there are some crazies over there. I ought to try that on Truth Social and see what's going on there too. Yeah, I could do that. But today I'm just going to do Twitter. There's enough there to cover a lot of territory. Oh my God, is there ever? So, yeah, before I jump into all that though, as I said before, I do want to thank everyone for watching, participating, jumping in. You can put your comments in there somewhere. And, wherever it might be that you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or my 2 Twitter accounts, there's a way for you to go in and actually, put your comment there, and it'll show up where I can see it, and I'll reply. Sometimes I even put it on the monitor that actually shows up so you can see the comments too. And I look forward to having those conversations. I don't block people out here unless they're just being absolute butt wipes about it. If they have no respect for other people, complete disregard for decency, stuff like that, well, then I'm not going to play games with them. Refuse to do that. But for the most part, I have no problem entertaining different ideas, even ones that I might disagree with, and probably do. Because I strongly believe that the only way our groups can sustain themselves over a long period of time, only way our organizations and our governments even, and you've got to be able to have a way to hear voices that you disagree with. I'm not talking about crazy voices, like you wake up in the middle of the night and you have this strange mechanical spider running all over the house, and you swat at it and you know that it's not real. Yeah, that kind of stuff occurs right at the edge of falling asleep or right at the edge of waking up for me. And it's actually a normal thing given as I'm getting older. It just happens to occur. So, little housekeeping before we jump into all of it. It is a new month. It is a new show today. And Twitter just keeps popping off all morning long. But I do want to share this with you. It is a vinyl sticker, glossy, highly glossy, 4x6. It's not the traditional 3x7 design that you see for bumper stickers, but I've got one on the back of my car, and I share these because I want you to be able to say, if you served our nation then you served for all Americans, or at least that's what you were supposed to do, supposed to be doing, whether you wanted to or not. That's what you were doing. You were serving for all Americans. Now, unless you got some political nut jobs running it, like Pete Hegseth running it right now with the defense the Department of Defense, which they're thinking about changing to the Department of War or something like that, which is what it was named a long time ago. We were more offensive then, and then we turned it into a defensive thing. But anyway, so and there has to be a balance between the two, though, by the way. You have to be able to do offensive and defensive work. But anyway, so you can get one of these. Go over onto the website. Let me see if I can get a link for the website up here. Go to the website and go to the shopping link. And you can go, it should show up right there. Yeah, it's www.cassandra-llc.com. This is a limited liability corporation registered in Kentucky, and it is not a nonprofit. And I will not go the nonprofit route probably ever again because I find it difficult to exist within a silo, particularly when I know that silo is creating harm for itself and will ultimately end in its own destruction. Whether it takes a year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 20, 25 years, there'll have to be a reckoning if you do not include other voices in there. And also it would be a reckoning given that this current administration has put a bullseye on large nonprofit organizations that do not abide by his EOs, executive orders, particularly around diversity, equity, inclusion, and discrimination. And so, yeah, he's probably going to do everything he can to roll back any of the 501c3, 501c4 type nonprofit rules and regulations within the IRS. So who knows? I mean, I expect it to come. I fully expect it to come because they want to erase anything, particularly anything to do with trans people and gender and all of that stuff. I mean, it is just such a hard thing for them to get their head wrapped around. That gender is a socially constructed thing, but it has its foundation. Foundationally, gender is something that arises out of the brain, which develops that part of the brain. If there's a misalignment of some kind, then in the late second trimester, then there's hormonal flooding of the brain, and that hormonal flooding, 99.4% of the time, actually matches your biological sex and the sex chromosomes that got you there. But that occurs in the first trimester. So there's sometimes a disconnect. And so that gender, whether it matches or not, that's the gender. It drives that. Everyone has a gender. Get it out of your head that no one has a gender. You have a biological sex, yeah, and a chromosomal sex. You have those, and you can't do anything about that. And you have a gender that is formed in utero with hormonal flooding of the brain in certain areas, so that whenever you actually are born and you live your life and you begin to recognize your gender or whatever, you begin to understand it. For most people, they will be the same as your biological sex. But in the event there's a disconnect, which is a possibility, it can be done. It is. I mean, look, I'm here. A lot of my friends are here. We are the anecdotal evidence of that, even though, it's anecdotal. But yeah, that's there. But there's been a lot of discussion about all that on Twitter, and it's just baffling to me that people can't grasp that. The thing they don't want to grasp is that what they're trying to force people to agree with is that, kind of taking this to an extreme example, but this still is applicable. What's going on is that they want people to think that the Dalton model of the atom is the actual correct way to describe an atom. And that model was developed in 1803, and it was just like a billiard ball or a pool ball, or whatever it is, a billiard ball. That's a solid sphere. There's no way it's irreducible. You can't tear it apart. That's as far down as it could go in 1803. And that's the way people look at sex and gender. They think they're so synonymous that you can't separate the two, when in fact, we know more. We've known more for a long time, almost 100 years. Oh my gosh, almost 100 years have we known that sex and gender are not synonyms of each other. But yet we have people who want us to go back to the Dalton model. Yeah, well, those people are just dips. With, yeah. Okay. So that's a lot of the stuff that's been going on in my head today. So I've got a little notes here and some stuff I want to talk about. The next thing, after I get me a drink of this Mott's watermelon burst, watermelon flavored juice beverage. I've stopped drinking soft drinks and sodas, Pepsi's, Coke, stuff like that. I just did it. It was time to stop. So I've been drinking more water and coffee and then little juices and things. Not too much of that. I kind of watched the sugar level. This has got some sugar in it, though, no doubt about it. 13 grams, which represents a very small amount in this thing. But yeah. So we got some things to talk about, folks. We got some things to talk about. Let me pull up different screens over here and we'll start sharing some things and have some fun. You ready? And let me see. Here's a ticker down here. I'm going to go ahead and run across the bottom and pull up this little thing because I got into this conversation earlier today. And where is it at? Where is it at? I'm finding it. I got an image to pull up. Dun, 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 dun. Where is it at? I'm looking. I'm digging into it. There it is. Okay. This is one that you've seen. I've shared quite a bit, actually. And this one came up again today because somebody was asking, talking about marriage and marriage equality and that, that the government should step in and put an end to marriage equality and round up trans people and put them in insane asylums and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these are some conversations taking over here. And I know that over on X or Twitter, it's like a cesspool of ignorance half the time, not all the time. And maybe I'm contributing to it, who knows. But still, I have fun with it. What you hear on the outside, by the way, is my brother washing off the back of the house where we put up that sawmill lumber from our cousin down on Brushy Creek here in Pike County, Kenneth Scaff, I mean. So anyway, we had all these conversations going on and they were saying, well, we don't need any of that kind of stuff, talking about marriage. And somebody said, well, marriage is something that's very religious. It should be respected as such. It's been in Judaism for a long time. I mean, that's where it originated, they were saying. And then so I pull up my favorite research tool, assistant, Grok, or any other AI system that's kind of well connected. But Grok, it makes it easier for me to do a lot of things. And so I showed people that historically, marriage between a man and a woman began 350 years before the institution of marriage in Judaism. Before that. So they kind of just negated, it was in Mesopotamia. And so, there was a record of it. The very first official marriage between a man and a woman. That's the first instance of it recorded. So you're not going to be able to tell me that it's just a religious thing that Judaism started or a particular religion started or whatever, because not. And then people wanted to argue with me about all of that. They were saying, well, why do you want to use Grok to do all that? Can't you think for yourself? And I sure I can think for myself, but I also don't have access to thousands of times more information than what I have in my head. And I've got a lot up here, but I don't have anywhere near that. Nowhere near that. And so I use the tools at hand. And if you aren't using the tools at hand, well, you're going to get left behind. So, yeah, I'm going to use those tools. I mean, it's learning more every day. And somebody said, well, it just has concurrence basically with the news media over on the left side of things. It kind of works in agreement with that. And well, look, only to a small degree does it rely upon that information. Only to a very small degree. You know why I say that? Because these AI systems are not going to tell you that what is being said is accurate and correct when that system knows it's not. I've encountered it. I mean, I've been corrected too by Grok and by Gemini and different ones. I mean, they have a database of information that is vast and accessible quickly. And it takes a minute for me to kind of remember certain things. I have to kind of go through it all, but I mean, these systems can pull it up and talk about it. So I'm going to use the resources at hand. I will continue to do so. And so every time there's something crazy over there that's said on Twitter, I'll go and say, hey, Grok, let's have a conversation. Answer this for me, would you? So let's go over and share page. Now, let me go back to the image that you're staring at right now on your screen. People were talking about that they wanted that to acknowledge that the state's role in government was to make sure that it was between a man and a woman only and stuff like that. Well, that's not the way that actually works. It's between two consenting adults who, you can put the qualifier in there, love or committed to each other, but it's two consenting adults which to legally, contractually establish a relationship together that's recognized by the state. So that's typically what's going on with marriage. It has nothing to do whether or not it's a man and a woman, or two men, two women, or a trans woman and another woman, or anything like that. It's just not relevant. The only part is then there's not even a religious qualification for it. They would like for them to be. So I put this little meme I created up here. This is from the George Wallace part of it. George Wallace is over on the left side of that image. That's from June 11th of 1963. He was standing in the door blocking access to the University of Alabama by two young black people who wanted access there and who had been granted that access by the federal government and said, you cannot prevent them. You can't segregate this population just because you don't think they ought to be in your institution, your educational institution. Well, Wallace was livid about that. He said something like this, put it segregation now, segregation today, segregation forever. Well, he changed his tune a few years later when he wanted to get reelected. But anyway, he was standing in front of the Foster's Auditorium. I've been there. I've lived there in Tuscaloosa. It's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Actually, it's a very beautiful campus, and I've got two of my daughters work there, and a son-in-law. So kind of connected there, and been involved with food service. I was there for a little while too, working in that area. So I mean, it's been. This image is actually something that represents what I think about politicians getting between you and your marriage. You don't want, who on earth wants a politician standing over there and saying, oh, you got to be married this way, and you got to go to that church to get married, and you've got to go get a license from the preacher. And then you've got to bring that to us before we'll even acknowledge that marriage is legitimate. And lo and behold, oh my gosh, we don't want that, right? Who on earth wants a politician standing in the way of your autonomy, your independence for anything, whether it is marriage or, you don't want a politician standing in the door. You don't want a politician in the door saying you can't get that particular health care right there because I disagree with it. And the politician is going, I know that you agree with it, and I know the doctor says it's good and it's legitimate care and it's good and it's medically necessary care, but it just hurts my feelings so bad. I don't want you to be able to do that, so I'm going to stand here and be a Wallace. I'm going to stand in front of the door and then tell you can't do that because it offends me. And that's all they're saying. That's exactly what they're saying. They have no business doing that. There's not a middle of the road person in this country who believes any independent thinker or libertarian thinkers or center left or center right people who would actually sit there and tell me they want a politician in the door telling them that there has to be a religious qualification for you to get married and that it will only be between a man and a woman of consenting age. Period. That's it. No. You don't want a politician there. Why would you want that? to me, it's very akin to a lot of the over-regulation that had been taking place for a long time within the federal government, which there was too many regulations for businesses. Yes, I agree. Been business, done that, understand that. It had gone way too far. That's another case of a politician getting in the way of your success, your business. Now, look, I will say this. There are some things where you have to put society ahead of a particular interest. So if it is a harm to the country, if you're polluting a stream somewhere and you're killing off fish and your dams might break because you aren't building them sturdy enough to hold up, like Buffalo Creek flooding in West Virginia, numbers 30, 40, about 60 years ago. Yeah, about 60 years ago. So you don't want the government standing there and telling you can't do something, but at the same time, you do want some, because otherwise people will just run over everybody else. They'll just do what they did back in the Gilded Age. You know, the thing that Trump wants to do, restore the Gilded Age in America. I think he's hoping that it won't be the dark side of the Gilded Age. Well, let me just rephrase that. Very few people experienced the Gilded Age in any beneficial way. Most were sewing things as kids, the children who were child labor, all this stuff, producing things in cramped spaces. There were no rights for employees or anything like that, no protections for them. That's why the Chicago fire erupted and wiped out the city pretty much during the Gilded Age. That's why kids were involved in employment, and it was forced labor. It was forced labor. And so that's the dark side of the Gilded Age that you're not going to hear from Trump. And I don't think anybody actually wants to go back to that part. But you know something? You can't, for all the people who think you can separate it out one from the other. No, when the oligarchs and when the people who are running the big businesses in this country decide that, hey, we're just going to do it this way because there are no regulations anymore to tell us how we should do things, then yeah, you know. So there's a balancing act between me saying that you don't want a politician standing in the way of your school, and you don't want the politician in the way of your doctor. You don't want a politician going, hey, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. No, those days are gone. But there are those who are trying to bring it back, only they're forcing themselves between you and your doctor. And they're forcing themselves into your bedroom because they know best. They're forcing themselves into your marriage because, you know, they want it defined as a biblical thing, when in reality it was created 350 years before it was recognized in Judaism. And that was in 2000. Let me see. That first one was in 2350 AD. Judaism picked it up in 2000 BC, and then then it get picked up into Christianity 2030, 40, 50, well, actually 2000, about 150 years later, after all the revisions. But anyway, so let's go take a look over here at Twitter just for the heck of it. You ready? Let me get a drink. Okay. Now let's go over to sharing the page. I'm going to share with you where I am over here. Share. And let me increase the size of this page a little bit so it's easier for you to see. How's that? Much better? So let me click over here on notification. Okay, look, it says that COVID shots killed millions of Americans and we the people need justice now. Blink, blink. No, it didn't. No, those vaccines did not kill millions of Americans. And I've asked Grok to explain that to these people, Hodge twins, whatever, numerous times, but they don't care. They're presenting a narrative that they don't want anyone telling them otherwise. They don't care about the facts. They just want to be able to say this kind of garbage and get away with it. So I kind of pushed back on it, kind of pushed back on it. So let me go down through. Let's see, I got 35 posts up on the top, and then I'll go over here and do the notification. So, Rand Paul, according to the LA Senator, universal hepatitis vaccines are necessary for the few mothers who get tested. Only logical reason moms would not be tested is malpractice or if moms don't deliver in a hospital. Universal vaccinations won't catch babies born at home. It would require vaccine police to find them. Rand Paul, it is just disgusting to me that you're my senator from the state of Kentucky. I know that you are, what are you, a pediatrician? I don't know what you are, actually. But I can tell you that Senator Bill Cassidy, who actually is a doctor, said this as a liver doctor who has spent his life work treating poor, underserved patients. I can tell you that many patients do not get tested at birth and can lead to debilitating, life-threatening condition for the rest of their lives. It could have been prevented by a proven, safe, effective vaccine. These two can go back and forth all they want. Let me go to notifications. Okay. Let me see. Found the race mixer. Oh, goodness. Here we go. I have to look at this one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Monuments across Dixie. Here we go. Don't stop the Cracker Barrel boycott. If they want our business, they must publicly apologize for their role in the removal of General Forrest's bust, then actively assist in its return. Do you know who General Forrest is? Bedford Forrest. Bedford Forrest. Yep, that one. First president of the KKK. Served in the Civil War for the South, obviously. He believed, let me tell you what this person believed. General Forrest was so offended that black people were being elected to public offices that he wanted to make sure that there was a way to stop them. He didn't want black people in leadership. He didn't think they were qualified to be in leadership in any kind of elected position whatsoever. And it just got under his skin so bad. Oh my God. Yes. So, wow. Yeah. Yep, sure did. So I didn't know about Cracker Barrel actually being part of that, but General Bedford Forrest's, Nathan Bedford Forrest bust and statues needed to be taken down. You can put them in any kind of a museum or a place like that you want. But in Nashville, there was a statue of General Nathan Bedford Forrest. And the majority of the population in the particular communities where it was located were black. And can you just for a minute imagine how offensive that would be, and to have that monument there just as an offense to the black people living in the community? That's why it was put there. Right. Exactly. But he was the first president of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan bunch. That's this person. And he was a racist through and through. He was just a bigoted butthole, period. I mean, he was a horrible human being. And people back then would say, no, he wasn't. He was just being good. And he was just a person of the times. Get over yourself. If you think another human being needs to be enslaved or that they are less than you because of the color of their skin, whether that would be white or black, then you are not a good person, period. Anyway, A.P. Hill legacy. Oh, here's another A.P. Hill, another racist piece of crap. Okay. Many people don't know that Cracker Barrel supported the removal of General Forrest bust in the Tennessee Capitol. Yep, did that. Sure did. In Nashville. And also over in Memphis. There was a park in Memphis where they removed. That was the one, that was the big one I was talking about earlier. Because of that boycott, I boycotted Cracker Barrel years ago. I don't eat at restaurants that support the destruction of our Southern history. Oh, goodness. Here we go. My third great James Gordon Wells was a sergeant under Forrest and rode with him. In my eyes, it's Dixie first and Dixie forever. To make it even worse, Cracker Barrel also is Pride Month. Oh, Okay. Yeah. Oh my God, that's such a shame, right? You're just a full of crap there, Foundation people. Let me see who you are. I'm going to follow you because I just love having a challenge to talk with people about things. Everyone feels at home. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging in a Cracker Barrel. Yep. Stand against racial injustice. Yep. Nathan Bedford Forrest, Slayer, traitor, Klansman. Slaver, traitor, Klansman. Yeah, he was a slaver. So was Andrew Jackson, too. But I mean, of course. And then when it was removed, that wasn't the only thing that was going on there with Nathan Bedford Forrest. I mean, this bust in the Capitol down there in Nashville, there was a big statue of him in Memphis, predominantly where a lot of black people live. Why? Well, because it was just to be an offense, right? Right. Okay, got it. Okay, so let's see. Down through here, previous CEO Cassandra Cochran, president CEO Cracker Barrel. Okay, here we go. CEO, okay, I'm just scrolling on down through here because this is from August 20. Earlier this year, I had a headstone made for my third great grandfather who rode with Forrest. He moved from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee to Texas after the war and was buried there. He never had a service stone, so I made sure to take care of that for him. When I get the funds saved up for him. Let me see. Wait a minute. I'm going to take a long trip. Okay. I'm going to take a long trip down to Texas. It's a long trip down to Texas. Texas is big. It is a whole other country. That's what the sign says on the way in. I honor my ancestors and heritage. A.P. Hill legacy, James Gordon Wells, Sergeant. Okay. I eat at mom and pop restaurants and buy local. I do too. And I even eat at ones that I've been told are racist pieces of crap because I just want to go in there and just have a good reaction from people. I've done that so many times. When I traveled the whole country, I visited all the lower 48 states a number of years back, 6 months out on the road. That's where I ate predominantly, except for breakfast. I ate breakfast generally every time in the cafeteria at the VA medical centers, wherever I was at that moment. So, yeah, we need to stop supporting these woke anti-white and anti-South shitholes. Oh, well, okay there, A.P. Hill legacy. Cracker Barrel is about to find out what Bud Light did. And this Liberty Bell person is just absolutely just deep in the hole with this. Let me see who replied. Yeah, you're right. Where's your source for that? Oh, let me see. What source are you talking about? Source for what? Oh, just look it up. You're talking about Bedford Forrest, president of the KKK? Ask Grok or whatever. Just go do it yourself. Sherman launched an investigation and proved that not only was Forrest, it was founded of the KKK. He wasn't a member, huh? Sherman? Yeah, he was. Not Sherman, but Forrest was. Bedford Forrest. Check your sources. There are monuments across Dixie. Come on in. You want to have a conversation about it? Let's go look it up. Let's check it out. Let me go over here, over on this screen we're looking at right now, and let's just ask Grok about all of this. You ready? Hey, Grok. What was the connection between the KKK and Nathan Bedford Forrest, if any? I'm going to put it in a way that just kind of, if any. Now, I may learn something too. Who knows? But anyway, I studied this stuff a long time ago. So, who knows? Let's go check it out. It'll take a second for Grok to reply. Now, I will say, Grok knows more than you and I. Don't you agree with that? Has access to a whole heck of a lot more information than anyone out there. Monuments across. Why do you use a fake name? Anyway, gotcha. Let me hit the reply button. Johnny Reb. Oh, that's Johnny Reb. A.P. Hill Legacy Foundation. Oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, oh my God. Okay. Let's just wait once we get back from that. Replying to, oh, there you are. I see you. It's fine. Good. Thanks for watching, by the way. I do appreciate it. And we'll have a conversation about this. Okay. We'll talk about definition of marriage. Sherman launched an investigation, found that not only was Forrest not the president of KKK, he wasn't even a member. Okay. Who's Forrest? Who's Sherman? I mean, who's Sherman? Anybody? Sherman? Anybody? Who's Sherman? Grok? Let's see. Let me do it like this. Grok? Who's Sherman in this piece from Across Dixie? And by the way, I'm going to say this out loud too. My connections to the Confederacy and the South are deep, 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 and wide. My second great-grandfather and my third great-grandfather both served for the Confederacy. My second great-grandfather, though, was actually conscripted to join the Union Army and then abandoned the Union Army, deserted, and then went back to the hills to make sure the Union couldn't find him. And his wife, my namesake, Cassie Williamson, actually hid him from the Union investigators trying to find him. Yeah. And I don't know in which caves they hid him in, but I do know that I know where they both lived, and I know where they are buried. I've been there, done that, looked at it. Yep, been right there, cleaned the place off. And his dad served in the Confederate Army, and many of their brothers did across the way. Oh, nah, you make the claim, you prove it. Oh, come on. Monuments, grow up, son. If it's a son or a daughter, I don't know who you are. It says Across Dixie. But look, if you're going to challenge me on something, then come with the evidence before you get here, because I don't play games with people. You can play all the games and word games you want, okay? But, you know, just kind of do a little work on your own. Wait. I got to go back to this one. So who's Sherman in this piece? Okay, so let's go see if I missed something. Nathan Bedford Forrest was elected the first Grand Wizard of the KKK in 1867. There you go, Monuments Across Dixie, helping organize and lead it in suppressing Black voting rights through violence and intimidation during Reconstruction. In 1869, he ordered the KKK disbanded, citing its lack of discipline. He denied membership in 1871 congressional hearing and later expressed support for racial harmony. Yay, Bedford, after you actually did all the horrible crap you did before that. Yep. He grew up like Wallace. Finally saw the light and realized he was just being an asshole. That's your company name. Okay. Monuments Across. Okay, cool. You know, or do you produce kind of like marble monuments and stuff? Because I do want to be able to put one for my grandparents in Wayne County, West Virginia. My great-great-grandparents in Wayne County. They've got a simple monument right now. It's a very simple little thing. And then I haven't been able to exactly find the grave for his father, who is Elias Williamson, but James Williamson and his wife, Cassie Williamson, are buried in Wayne County, West Virginia. Sounds like a lie. What were their names if you're really connected to? Oh, yeah, really? Okay, I just told you. All right, so let me give you a little thing here. My name is Cassandra Williamson. I grew up in Pike County, Kentucky, right along the West Virginia border. all the land on the Kentucky side of the Tug River, where Williamson, West Virginia is located across the river from there, all that was owned by family. All of it, Williamson, West Virginia, South Williamson, Kentucky. That's where I'm from. We've been here since 1795. I'm a family historian. And let me see, my grandfather, my dad's name was Willie Williamson. His dad was Gideon Williamson. Gideon is buried in Williamson, West Virginia. You don't know who you're talking about? Sherman, as in Sherman on the march. Sherman, that march, the one who burned Atlanta. That Sherman? Oh, if that's the case, well, he must have only read to 1871. Anyway, so let's go back. Gideon Williamson, buried in Williamson. My grandfather, his wife, who died in 1933 or 32. She was from Ashe County, North Carolina, and which is up in the upper corner, western corner, up right against Virginia and Tennessee. Okay, right up in there. Been there. I know where she's buried. It's a beautiful place down there in Ashe County, and it's also one of those places where my uncles and everybody from down in that area named Zebulon, Vance, Blevins, the Blevinses. You ride through Ashe County and Jefferson, West Jefferson, and Lansing. You'll find Blevinses on every other mailbox, literally. And in Grayson County, Virginia, across the way, and in Johnson County, Tennessee, on the other side. Okay, so anyway, so Gideon's dad was Gideon, and he's my great grandfather, and he is buried just outside the city limits of Williamson on Goodman Hall in Mingo County. And his dad was James. James is the one who was conscripted to serve for the Union Army. Deserted, went back to the hollers of Wayne County, West Virginia, and his wife Cassie, my namesake, hid him. So in some caves around there so that the Union officers wouldn't find him. And James and Cassie, by the way, were first cousins, literally first cousins. So there are no family trees here. They're totem poles. But anyway, so James's parents were Elias and Melinda Markham Williamson. They're also buried in Wayne County, but I have yet to find their actual location because the markers have all disappeared. I know generally where they are, or the cemetery where they are, but I can't find the actual grave itself. Elias's dad was Alden Williamson, and Alden served in the very first Battle of Point Pleasant during the Revolutionary War, which was in 1774. Actually, it was one of the first ones it's considered to be one of the first war battles of the Confederacy, but it was in the western frontier of Battle of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It wasn't West Virginia then, it was Virginia. Oh, excuse me. So Alden Williamson was born in 1750. He moved his family to Pike County, to Kentucky in 1795. Pike County. He was living in Russell County, Virginia, in a little place called, what was that called? It was Thompson Holler or something, Thompson Road. It's near Lebanon, Virginia. But anyway, been there, done that. Yeah, my family is connected in multiple ways to people who served in the Revolutionary War. My mom's side, one of my greats back there actually served with George Washington at Valley Forge, and got out of the army and went to North Carolina, where his family was from. So I've got connections to the South, like going out the bazooka kind of South connections. Okay. And it's really weird. They were heroes. That's for sure. And I'm going to put this up here, monuments across Dixie. Yeah. And absolutely, they were heroes. They were on the wrong side, but they were heroes. Now, it goes even further than that. Being from a well-connected family in Virginia, one of Alden Williamson's second wives, one of my great fourth grandparents, was a Lee. connected to the Lees, was a child of the Lees. And that particular person of that Lees, that's the same branch of Lees who were at West, what was that, in Virginia, Washington's birthplace, Westmoreland, or whatever it is, something like that. I can't remember the exact name. But anyway, so been there, done that too. And so we are connected to the Lees of Virginia. And guess who else was a Lee from Virginia? Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was one of my distant cousins. Really distant cousin, but still a distant cousin. Families here, if they've been here any length of time, are connected in multiple degrees and ways all across this nation, across this part of the South of the Mason-Dixon line. And I'm proud that these people were in my family, but they were sadly mistaken in the things that they believed. They thought they believed correctly. And looking back through the lens that we have now, I know that a lot of people say that you can look through the lens of present day and you're trying to impose views from today on what was going on then. Well, no, there's a certain no, because even they knew that slavery was wrong. They knew it. And how can I say that? Because Thomas Jefferson, you know why? He had a real ethical conflict over slavery. And this is what he wrote about it. Paraphrase slightly. He actually said that he knew slavery needed to be stopped, to be written into the Constitution and eliminated. You know why he didn't? He didn't because, one, he feared that they would rise up and kill all the white people. And what does that tell you? It was not a pleasant, lost cause kind of experience that these people lived under. Because if Thomas Jefferson said that, and which he did, if Thomas Jefferson can say something like that, that means exactly that. He was afraid they would rise up and put down the white people. That's it, exactly. And another reason why he never went publicly about all of that stuff was because, he was from Virginia, Thomas Jefferson. I'm not connected to Jefferson as far as I know. And yeah, Jefferson was a Southerner. He would have joined the Confederacy. No, actually, he wouldn't have. He was opposed to it. Well, no, let me take that back. You could be right, because Jefferson was also weak ethically and morally. He did not have the capacity to stand up for what he knew to be right. He knew slavery was wrong. He was opposed to it. He kept his slaves until he died and then set them free. I mean, the only reason he did it was he's afraid of peer pressure in Virginia. He was afraid his friend, he wrote this, he was afraid of what his friends would say of him and think of him if he actually went out there and said, I'm opposed to slavery on ethical grounds. That's what he wrote. He joined the USA when no, actually he didn't join the USA. He actually helped create it. He was one of the founders. He actually wrote the Declaration of Independence, which is that right there on my wall. And that, by the way, is Bancroft Hall from the Naval Academy. That's where I went to school. Graduated from there a long time ago, last century. And let me show you. And here. That is my grandfather, Gideon Williamson, with his wife, Eva Blevins. This picture was taken in about 1928, because that's when they would have gotten married. My dad was the oldest. And so she wasn't pregnant then, and she had two children almost back to back, my dad and my aunt Lil. But this picture, I don't know what kind of car that is, but I think that's fascinating. But I do have a picture of Gideon on a horse here in the house. He was into logging. I mean, he was into all kinds of stuff, logging, and they had a retail store downtown in Williamson. Later in life, he worked as a armature rewinder for an armature company in the town of Williamson, which is the county seat of Mingo County, by the way, if you don't know. So, yeah, my connections to the South are deep and wide. I had a conversation one time, and I'm going to keep this up. It's been about 50 minutes, but I had a conversation. I was living down in Tuscaloosa. I've got 2 daughters down there and two grandchildren, and a lot of family in Alabama and around Tuscaloosa and Northport and all that. But anyway, it's happened who, I'm not sure if Tom is still alive or not, but he was a county judge executive for a little county to the west of Tuscaloosa. What was the name of that little Pickens County to the west of Tuscaloosa, between Tuscaloosa and Mississippi, out 82, Highway 82. So Tom Woodard and I had been friends for a while, talking, chatting, and he was a big Southern supporter and all of that, big time. And he always wanted me to understand. He thought that I didn't know some things about the Confederacy. Okay, he thought that he could convince me that it wasn't over slavery. The war wasn't over slavery, when in fact, nearly every person who left the U.S. Congress, senators and representatives, when they left, they predominantly said, "We are doing this to protect the institution of slavery." Yep, in their speeches on the floor. And then, and then the senators for the Confederacy, the CSA, Confederate States of America, the CSA, that one. The senators who served in that body in Montgomery, Alabama, and I've been there, right where that is too. I mean, I've been all over the place, obviously, but it's actually a beautiful little place. But it's a history museum now. It's the State House of the Confederacy, capital of the Confederacy, little buildings near the state capitol. but senators, even ones from Texas, by the name of, let me see, get this name right, Williamson S. Oldham. I don't know where the Williamson name came from on there. It just kind of interested me. I lived in Texas for a little while too. And so, oh, that's good. That is a good question. That is a good question there, Monuments Across Dixie. Because at that point in time, it was a matter of Southern honor and pride. Why would they want to go back? Right? But that is a decent question. And keep slavery. I mean, that's what Lincoln actually offered. He did not want to see the Union fall apart. But by that point in time, the South had already invested in separating the different states, South Carolina and all of them. So, but anyway, back to the story about the Confederacy and its federal government. Those senators wrote in their autobiographies afterwards that and this is that Senator Oldham from Texas said, for all the apologists out there like Jefferson Davis who are trying to convince you that it is not about slavery, they're wrong. He was pretty blunt about it. But you know how else I can tell you that is just about slavery? The Constitution of the Confederacy basically replicated the U.S. Constitution in every detail, every word. There were some changes, some minor and some very significant, but they enumerated every line. You know, the U.S. Constitution doesn't have line numbers. Well, Confederate Constitution, which replicated U.S. Constitution, has line numbers. And then there were some clauses in there about debt, national debt, stuff like that. And then 4 times within that new Constitution they wrote for themselves, they said that the institution of slavery would not be in any way infringed upon. No bills would ever be written to roll it back. You couldn't even bring a bill before the legislative body to even talk about the institution of slavery. That was in the Constitution. And so when I mentioned that to Tom Woodard, my friend, he stopped talking to me. Oh, okay. So let me go down here to this next one. I'll put this up here. Monuments Across Dixie. If slavery was the only reason, why wouldn't they? Most Confederate leaders like Lee and Davis opposed leaving the Union. Yeah, absolutely they did. Absolutely they did. The only reason that Davis left the Union, not Davis, but Lee, Robert E. Lee, who was a graduate of West Point, go Navy, beat Army. That's my side of things. The only reason was because at that point in time, and most of the people who thought about it, it was more about the states were more important than the federal government. It was a states' rights thing in that sense, because they were trying to protect their right to be who they were at the time. They wanted to protect their rights as independent sovereign states. That's true. But the impetus for it, the reason it got kicked off and started at all was because of slavery. Now, when Jefferson was writing on that, one of the things that he actually said was that he knew that that issue would have to be addressed in the future. He didn't have the guts to address it then. So he passed it on to the future generations. He was right. Future had to resolve it. It was going to come. Jefferson knew it. Hamilton despised slavery. I actually like Hamilton more than Jefferson. They were both extremely intelligent people. Very. Both of them were in the American Philosophical Society, American Scientific Societies, all of that stuff. They were some smart people right there. Okay. So anyway, we've had a good conversation there. And let me see. What did you say here? What was the things in the Confederate Constitution different other than slavery? Oh, there was one thing in there that had to do with balancing the budget, that they didn't want their government to have an unbalanced budget, their federal Confederate government. And the other thing was that the line items, every line was enumerated, had numbers beside it. In the U.S. Constitution, there were no numbers beside it over to the left going down the page. They weren't enumerated. And they wanted to be able to do that in the South because if they wanted to say anything about it, they wanted to have an actual quick reference to it. They could find it quickly and easily. They could say, okay, the section on slavery is on page 4, line 28. And they knew exactly where to go. They wanted to make the job easier, which is not a bad idea. And then, yeah, I mean, this has been, we got to go to, I got Confederate monuments to raise. Wait. I would love something about what you do with that. And is that name something you can find on the internet? Let me see. Can I find, because like I said, I've got Confederate family ancestors, and I don't mind putting up something that recognizes them in their cemetery. But lo and behold, I'm not going to go down in the town of Williamson, down near here, and go and put up a statue for Ben Williamson, who did own slaves, even though he and his son owned all that land, okay, and founded the town. Anyway, so we have good. Hey, I do thank you very much. Let me go and find your website. I'll put it up there for people to go check out. And I thank you so much for coming into the conversation. I can get pretty animated about all this because I love my family. I love where I'm from. I love where I live. It's beautiful around here. The people are absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, that's just life, isn't it? You have a great day, and I'm getting off here too because I've been talking for an hour. Let me find your website though, and I'll put it on there as well. Hold on. Monuments Across Dixie. Okay. Okay, Monuments Across Dixie. Let's do this. Sure, absolutely. Love to. Love to. Yep. I want to encourage more people to come in. I wouldn't even mind people coming on and going live with me because, I actually enjoy having people who that I don't always have an agreement with. Why would I want to sit in an echo chamber and hear the same stuff over and over and over again from the same people? My God, there's no growth in that. Anyway, monuments across America or across Dixie, monuments across Dixie, legacy headstones, bronze. Let's see, monuments across Dixie. Can you type in the website address for that down there on the bottom? I'll put it up on the screen. I'll share it if you're still there. I've tried to, let me see. Monuments across Dixie. Gotcha. Found it. Capshaw, Alabama. Yep. We are definitely Southern. Southern. Uh-huh. Gotcha. I got it. Thank you so much for the conversation. I'm going to share your website on the screen so everybody can see it too. Bum, bum, ba, bum, ba, ba. Go check these people out. Check it out. And if you have family or friends buried in the South who are in the Confederacy or whatever, check it out. They're actually located in Capshaw, Alabama. I've never been to Capshaw, Alabama. I don't know exactly where it is, but let me put it up here and put it across the screen as a streamer as well. I'm going to put it across the bottom. This ticker. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Paste. Add. Show. There you go. All right. Thanks for the conversation. I appreciate you. And I'm going to check out Capshaw, Alabama. I've never heard of it, but got a lot of family down in Alabama. Sure do. Grandkids and all. And I love it down there. It's beautiful. The only reason I'm back in Kentucky is because I'm a caregiver for my mom, brother, sister, and keep an eye on my cousin. Have a great day, everyone.